We're comparing the Narwal S10 against the Bissell Crosswave and the Tineco Floor 1. These are all wet-dry vacuums at different price points, and I'm going to test them throughout the video and show you the results. Narwal is the sponsor of today's video, but they didn't send me a script and I'm running my own tests, which you're going to see, so I'm going to be as transparent as possible. Now let's meet the contenders. First up, we have the Bissell Crosswave All-in-One Pet Pro. It is the least expensive of the three in this comparison. And like the others, it is a wet-dry vacuum, which means you can wash and vacuum at the same time. Now, every vacuum in this comparison has the same clean size water tank of about 0.8 liters. And the Bissell has the smallest dirty water tank at about 0.4 liters. It's got a tangle-free mop head, which is about 9¼ inches wide, but the head size on the Bissell is larger. It's about 11¾ inches wide, whereas the other two are about 10½. And I'll show you how close each one gets to your baseboards when we start the tests. And the Bissell has a power cord, where the other two are cordless. Next up is the Tineco Floor 1. This is a cordless design and it feels a lot more premium than the Bissell. The head is much narrower than the Bissell at 10.5 inches. The clean water tank, like the Bissell, is also 0.8 liters, and it has a 0.7 liter dirty water tank, which is the same size as the Narwal. They also all have filters, and they're all supposed to separate the dry mess from the wet mess. We're going to test that. It's got what seems to be pretty high build quality and a battery that's supposed to last 35 minutes. The Narwal S10 Pro is also cordless like the Tineco. It's also got a 0.8 liter clean water tank, but it's on the base, not on the handle. And we'll get to why that's important in just a second. It's also got a display, but it's on the handle, so it's a lot closer to you.
Turbo mode.
It's got 14 kilopascals of suction power, and looking at all three, let me know down below which one you think has the best aesthetic and would look the best in your home. It's got a clean, simple, white design that kind of reminds me a little bit of an Apple product. It has a white base where you charge it, but also it dries the mop with hot air, which neither of the others do. Now, let's get into the testing. First, let's talk about ergonomics and weight. The Bissell is the heaviest at 11.5 pounds. The Tineco is 9.5 pounds, and the Narwal is also about 9.5 pounds without water. Now, with the water tank filled on any of these, it adds about 2 pounds. But not all water tanks are created equal. Remember before when I said placement matters? This Bissell has a cord, and the water tank is higher up on the handle. But that means it's a bit of work to maneuver. It's just a little bit clunky and it's not that great on stairs. The Tineco is noticeably lighter than the Bissell. The water tank is also on the handle. The Narwal S10 Pro weighs about the same as the Tineco, but the water tank isn't up here on the handle. It's down here on the head. And because the water tank isn't up here closer to your hand, you're not moving it through an arc like this. And that makes it a lot easier to maneuver. And it's so light, I can maneuver it with just one finger. The Bissell has the least range of motion. It moves about this far, maybe 30 degrees. And the Tineco moves more than the Bissell. The Narwal does have a better range of motion, but what if you want to clean underneath your bed? Now this is where things get really interesting. I've got a couple of very fluffy cats, and so I get a lot of pet hair underneath the bed. Let's see how these compare. So this bed frame is actually quite high. This is almost 10 inches of height over here. Let's check out the Bissell. So loud. Now the Tineco. One thing I noticed with the Tineco is that if you bend it over too far and you put it on its side, it's going to start to leak dirty water from the tank and also from the roller. Now, the Narwal.
Quiet mode. Low area cleaning detected. Adjusting suction power automatically.
It's adjusted the power because it knows it's somehow below the bed. Okay, what about down at the edge here? Let's see. Whoa, about 6 inches. I've got a ton of hardwood in this house and I've got some really fluffy Siberian cats. That means that pet hair gets everywhere, including along the baseboards. So let's see how close each of these vacuums can get to the baseboards. The Bissell has the largest head at around 11.8 inches, and you can see that the head encloses the mop completely. So it gets about 1¼ inches from the edge, and that's gonna leave a strip here of about 1¼ inches that is dry. The Tineco has an open head design, and the head is around 10.5 inches wide. And it gets pretty close to the edge, about 3/8 of an inch away. And this is the Narwhal. You can see it also has a head of about 10.5 inches wide, but it gets the closest to the edge. It is 0.23 inches away from the edge. Now, cleaning isn't all about straight lines. Sometimes, like life, you got a few corners in the road, or in this case, in your house. Let's see how they do. The Bissell is a little bit more difficult to maneuver. It's a bit clunky, and it leaves this 1.25 inch dry strip into the corners. The Tineco is pretty easy. You can still feel the weight of the handle, but it's actually pretty easy to maneuver, pretty easy to get in the corners. And the Narwhal feels the easiest because the weight is down low, and it actually gets closest to the corner. On outside corners, it's more of the same story. The Bissell is pretty big and clunky. It doesn't get very close to the edge. The Tineco does a pretty good job. The Narwhal is just a little bit easier to maneuver. And of course, no video would be complete without the
Mega Mess Test.
Here are the rules. We're gonna mess up the floor with some ketchup, ranch dressing, beans, almond milk, and some coffee. We're gonna distribute roughly equal amounts of each in front of each vacuum. And for good measure, I've put the recommended amount of cleaning fluid into each vacuum. May the best mopping vacuum win. Let's start with the Bissell. Okay, looking at the first pass, it did pretty good back up here near where it started. But when we got down here, it tended to snow plow, or should I say bean plow, the beans and the other stuff in front of it. So, of course, this isn't the way you'd normally vacuum, but let's try it with the Tineco. So the Tineco actually looks pretty good until we get to the smashed beans over here. So this might be a problem for all of them, but let's see. Next, we're gonna try the Narwhal. Okay, looking at the Narwhal result, it's pretty good also until we get to the smashed beans, but I think a pretty good result for all of them. Let's do a couple more passes now and see if that resolves the situation. After a few passes, the floor looks really, really clean. I didn't touch it with my hands. I think that's pretty good. Let's try the Tineco. Let's do some more passes with the Bissell. So which one of these performed the best? Well, if there's anything we learned in this test, it's that beans are probably something that you should best get rid of before you do your mopping. I think they all actually performed pretty well. The Bissell, I think, left the most mess after the first pass, but let me know down below. They're all doing a pretty good job, actually. The Mega Mess Test is a lot of fun, but it's not super practical. But you know what is practical is using the different modes that each of these vacuums has. The Bissell has two modes. It has hard floor and rug. I'm not really sure what the difference is, to be honest, but if you pull the trigger, you spray out water. That's about it. The Tineco has two modes, auto and suction. Auto is the one you're going to use most of the time. It detects if you have dirt or mess in your floor and adjusts the suction and water flow and roller brush speed with the amount of the mess. Suction mode increases the vacuum to maximum suction, and battery life in auto mode is about 35 minutes. The Narwhal has 4 different modes. It has an auto mode that detects the level of dirt that you have and automatically adjusts the suction and water levels to more effectively adapt to whatever kind of mess you're dealing with. It's also got a suction mode which removes water more quickly from the floor. In turbo mode, it increases both water and suction, and in quiet mode, it can get up to about 50 minutes of battery life, which is 42% more than the Tineco, and that's good for about 3,200 feet, enough for most homes in the US. The Narwhal has a feature that the other vacuums don't have. So inside this cover are 32 different nozzles where the clean water comes out, but that's not what's interesting. As the water goes into the head, there's an electrolysis module in here. When the water is electrolyzed, it forms a hypochlorite when it passes through the module, and chlorite is an ingredient in bleach, so that means as you're cleaning your floor, the water is partially sterilized.
Electrolyzed water sterilization activated.
We measured the noise level for each of these vacuums, and the Bissell was quite loud at 77 decibels, the loudest by far. Tineco was at 75 decibels, which doesn't seem quieter, but it actually is significantly quieter, and the tone, the quality of the sound is just not that annoying. The Narwal, however, was the quietest by far at 65 decibels in the quiet mode, that's quieter than an office conversation, and 69 decibels in turbo mode. And in real life, that decibel level makes a big difference. That's quiet mode.
Suction mode.
That's the loudest mode. Listen to the Bissell. That is so loud. Now we're in my bathroom, not because I drank too much, but because these vacuums consumed too much stuff off the floor, and I don't want to dump it into my sink. So we're gonna see how well each one of these separates the chunky matter from the liquids. Let's check out the Bissell. I don't see any separation at all here. This is just one big, disgusting, soupy mess. It was supposed to separate it with this piece here, but actually it didn't do anything. Next, we're gonna check out the Tineco. Big mess. Looks like it's got some kind of separation thing here. Okay, it's got like a little tray there which separated out, I'd say, a decent amount of it. Next up, let's check out the Narwal S10. It's got some kind of separator thing, and it's got a little handle here. Okay, it actually separated out more stuff than the other two, so I think that's pretty clear win. Let's look at the bases. On the Bissell, it's pretty easy to pull the head out so you can clean the roller and let it dry. Now you gotta do your own cleaning on this. There's nothing self-cleaning or drying about it. The Tineco base station has an extra function because it is cordless. This is where you put it in to charge.
Charging has commenced.
It also does a self-cleaning cycle.
Start self-cleaning.
And when it's done, you can take the cover off, take the brush roll out, and put this aside to dry somewhere, like maybe here, or maybe in the sun. It's up to you. And the Narwal goes one further than the Tineco. It actually uses hot air to dry the mop, so the rollers will never get odor built up on them. So you don't need to clean the mop as often, but if you do, it's also quite easy to take off. Pops out like this.
Starting self-cleaning and drying. Smart detection in progress. Antibacterial cleaning of the roll brush and pipelines in progress.
And it tells you if the dirty water tank needs to be emptied.
Self-cleaning complete. Clean dirty water tank.
Everyone likes discounts, right? So there will be one down below. So which one should you choose? The Bissell has some limitations. It is corded, it is quite loud, and it only gets to about 1.25 inches away from baseboards. I think it's okay if you're on a limited budget. It's super popular on Amazon, but let's talk about the Tineco. I think this is actually a very solid choice. It's a very good vacuum, but it does have a couple limitations. Namely, it doesn't get under beds, and if you bend it over and you leave the handle down, it's gonna leak dirty water all over your floor. I think that's not something that I personally want. Battery life is okay. It has a nice display. It has 2 modes. But what about the Narwal? So the price is roughly the same as the Tineco, but with my discount code down below, this is actually gonna be a little bit cheaper, and I do think it has more features and is worth considering. First off, this goes down below your bed where none of the others do. It has 4 different modes, and the base has got the self-drying feature, which I really like. Also, the battery life is about 15 minutes longer on this than the Tineco. And none of the others have the electrolysis process, which sterilizes the water, so your floor is gonna be just a little bit cleaner with the S10. And because of the range of motion of the handle and the water being down at the base, it's just easier to move around your room and get your cleaning done. I've put together a chart summarizing the differences. Feel free to pause the video. There's another amazing video right over here. See you in the next one.